What happened to Jazz Jennings? Once the fearless young face of transgender youth in America and star of I Am Jazz, her journey might bring tears to your eyes. Known for her bright smile and incredible courage, Jazz captured hearts everywhere as a transgender child sharing her journey openly with the world. But behind the polished public image, the reality was far more complex and deeply emotional. For years, millions of viewers watched Jazz grow up on television. They saw her navigate school, friendships, family relationships, and the unique challenges that come with being a transgender teenager in the spotlight. She seemed unstoppable, always fighting for what she believed in and inspiring countless young people around the globe. Yet, behind the cameras and that confident smile, Jazz was fighting private battles no one truly saw coming. Jazz became famous at a very young age. With fame came intense pressure that most adults couldn't handle, let alone a child. Born biologically male, Jazz knew from the time she could speak that she was actually a girl. Her story moved millions. Her parents, Greg and Jeanette Jennings, made the difficult yet loving decision to support their daughter's transition and to share their journey with the world through national television. I Am Jazz debuted in 2015 when Jazz was just 14 years old. For 8 seasons, viewers followed her life as she dealt with high school, gender confirmation surgery, college applications, and regular teen issues, all while navigating life as a visible transgender advocate in America. She seemed to have it all figured out. She was articulate, driven, and devoted to making the world better for transgender youth. But viewers didn't see the toll public life took on her mental health. The pressure to be perfect, to always be on, and to represent an entire community slowly began to crush her spirit. Over time, Jazz began to open up about suffering from severe depression and anxiety. These mental health conditions, which started during her teenage years, worsened as she grew older. The first major sign that something was wrong emerged shortly after she graduated high school. Jazz had been accepted into Harvard University, one of the most prestigious institutions in the world. What should have been a joyful milestone instead marked the beginning of one of the darkest periods in her life. The stress of preparing for Harvard, coupled with ongoing personal pressures, triggered a storm within Jazz that she wasn't ready to face. She developed binge eating disorder, a serious mental health condition involving episodes of uncontrollable eating. For Jazz, food became a way to manage emotions, her anxiety, her sadness, her sense of being overwhelmed. But instead of relief, binge eating made things worse. Over the next 2 years, Jazz gained nearly 100 pounds. For someone whose life had been public since childhood, this weight gain became a deeply personal and painful issue. She felt ashamed, embarrassed, and lost. The once confident, inspiring young woman was now struggling to get out of bed some days. And it wasn't just her appearance. Her health, mobility, and mental stability were all affected. She became increasingly depressed, more anxious, and started isolating herself from loved ones. The lively spirit that fans had come to admire was disappearing. Jazz later revealed she sometimes didn't want to leave the house or be seen by anyone. She felt like she had lost herself. The struggles she faced with weight weren't merely about body image. They were about her entire identity unraveling under the stress. Because of her mental health decline and the toll on her physical health, Jazz made the incredibly difficult decision to defer her enrollment at Harvard. This was heartbreaking for someone who had worked so hard and dreamed so big. But she knew she wasn't in the right headspace to succeed. Delaying college marked the beginning of a long and painful journey toward healing. Jazz had to face not only her eating disorder, but also the deeper-rooted depression and anxiety. She started working with therapists, nutritionists, and health professionals to take care of both her physical and emotional well-being. One of the hardest parts of her recovery was the criticism she received online. When someone gains weight in the public eye, many feel entitled to judge, mock, or offer unsolicited advice. Jazz faced cruel comments about her appearance, her health, and even her identity. Some suggested her struggles were tied to her being transgender, adding another layer of hurt to an already painful situation. Despite this, Jazz bravely began speaking out about her mental health. She admitted to suffering panic attacks, feeling overwhelmed by everyday tasks, and battling thoughts of self-doubt and worthlessness. For someone long viewed as a role model, revealing her vulnerabilities was both terrifying and freeing. The binge eating disorder created a painful cycle. She would feel stress or sadness, binge to cope, then feel intense guilt and shame, only for that shame to lead to more stress and more binging. Millions struggle with this pattern. But for Jazz, it played out under the harsh spotlight of public scrutiny. During her darkest periods, Jazz's family was her lifeline. Her parents and siblings provided support and encouragement, but Jazz also spoke candidly about how even their good intentions could hurt. At times, their comments about food or weight felt like fat-shaming, deepening her feelings of shame and alienation. Though they were trying to help, it occasionally worsened her pain and strained their relationships, especially after years of life lived on camera. Recovery wasn't linear. There were setbacks and days when giving up felt easier. But with treatment and support, Jazz gradually started to recover. She worked closely with therapists specializing in eating disorders and body image. She learned healthier coping strategies and explored the emotional roots of her disorder. Losing the weight became a challenge of its own. Jazz needed to avoid swinging from binge eating to restrictive dieting or obsessive exercising. She had to strike a balance, improving her health while nurturing a positive relationship with food and her body. Over the course of 2 years, Jazz lost nearly 100 pounds. But more importantly, she regained her confidence, joy, and sense of self. Her transformation wasn't just physical, it was emotional and mental. Jazz spoke openly about finally feeling like herself again, about rediscovering the happiness she once felt. In 2022, after years of hard work and healing, Jazz enrolled at Harvard University. 2 years later than originally planned, but at a time when she was truly ready. It was more than a college milestone. It marked a triumph over the darkness that had nearly consumed her. Jazz is now on track to graduate in the summer of 2025. This achievement is deeply personal. It represents not just academic success, but years of therapy, personal growth, and the resilience to keep going when things felt impossible. Jazz continues to be open about her ongoing recovery. She acknowledges that mental health isn't a one-time fix. She still has days of anxiety, moments of body image struggles, but now she has the tools to manage them. What's truly inspiring is how Jazz has chosen to use her experience to help others. She's shared her journey with binge eating disorder, depression, and anxiety in the hope that it can comfort others facing similar challenges. Her honesty has helped dismantle the stigma around mental illness and show others that they're not alone. Jazz's story reminds us that even the most confident people can suffer silently. Her life as a transgender youth in America, coupled with fame and visibility, created extraordinary pressures. She was expected to represent and advocate while also figuring out who she was. That's an enormous load for any teenager. Yet, her story isn't just heartbreaking. It's hopeful. It proves that recovery is possible, that asking for help is strength, not weakness, and that dark times don't define us. How we rise from them does. Today, Jazz is in a much better place. She's healthier, happier, and more grounded. She's pursuing her dreams at one of the world's top universities. She continues to speak out, advocating for mental health, body positivity, and transgender rights. But most of all, she's living a life that's true to herself, not to expectations. In recent photos and interviews, Jazz appears radiant, smiling genuinely, engaging with fans, and rediscovering the joy that once defined her. She's revealed her 100-pound weight loss, but emphasized that it's the emotional healing that matters most. Her confidence, voice, and purpose are back and stronger than ever. Jazz's experience highlights the importance of mental health awareness, especially for youth in the spotlight. Fame can be brutal. The pressure to be perfect, to never slip, to always smile, can destroy even the strongest among us. Jazz's willingness to speak out has helped spark vital conversations about what real mental health support should look like. Looking at Jazz now, it's clear her story is far from over. She carries hard-earned wisdom that will serve her in everything she builds moving forward. She's no longer the child simply telling her story. She's a young woman using her past to create a better future, not just for herself, but for others, too. Her story reminds us that everyone has invisible struggles. The person next to you, seemingly perfect, might be barely holding on. Jazz shows us why compassion, patience, and understanding are so critical. As she continues her journey into adulthood, Jazz stands as a symbol of resilience, vulnerability, and hope. Jazz Jennings' life now is a living example of how struggles don't define us, but how we face them does. From a brave child on TV to a woman rebuilding her life, Jazz teaches us the value of persistence, honesty, and healing. If her story resonates with you, share it. Let it be a reminder that healing is possible, that hope can return, and that every one of us deserves the support we need to live our truth. As Jazz continues moving forward, her life remains a powerful beacon for others navigating similar paths. Whether someone is dealing with gender identity, mental health struggles, or the pressures of public life, Jazz's story offers something incredibly rare: honesty without filters. She doesn't pretend to have everything figured out. Instead, she shows what it looks like to grow, to stumble, to fall, and to stand back up again. What's especially inspiring is how Jazz uses her platform not to showcase perfection, but to normalize imperfection on social media, in interviews, and even in her book. She has continued to discuss her fears, insecurities, and challenges. In doing so, she gives people permission to be vulnerable. She reminds her audience that it's okay to not be okay and that healing isn't a straight line. It's a winding road that takes time, grace, and effort. Beyond personal healing, Jazz remains committed to her advocacy. Even while attending Harvard, she has participated in speaking engagements, LGBTQ+ panels, and mental health initiatives. She continues to use her voice to speak up for those who may not have the platform she does. In doing so, she honors the very spirit that first made her a symbol of courage as a child. Now, as a young adult, her advocacy has deepened with lived experience. There's something deeply human about Jazz's journey.